Well, how's it going, friends and family? My name is Amos, and in this video, I just want to prove a point that I'm not perfect, I'm not always right, and I'm only human. I make mistakes, and I'm often wrong. By the way, it's a little weird, because I usually stand when I record and make videos, but I'm sitting in a chair at an Airbnb currently, and come to find out over the weekend, my shipment is coming from Japan. So I'll have my full studio gear set up, rolling out videos as usual. But for this one, it's gonna be using the integrated microphone in the MacBook Air. So if it sounds a little wonky, that's my excuse. So at the beginning of this year, 2026, in case you're delusional, you don't know what year it is, I uploaded a video talking about my top stock picks for 2026 as a very generalized statement. And what you see on your screen right now, this is what would have happened if I did buy the 12 different positions, hold on to them, and do nothing at all. So buy and hold and forget. So just circling back to it, I guess after 6 months, 2 quarters have passed, that 100 grand would have transformed into 97,000. And the total P&L, I'd be in the red. What is this? 3.1%. So negative 3%. What positions are we talking about? The allocations were as following. Amazon at about 5%, and they're currently up 8.5%, so it's pretty good. General Dynamics at roughly 10% of the portfolio. Gold, not too good. Same with silver, negative 21%, atrocious. And this one right here, I do want to toot my horn a little bit. When everybody kept saying, yo, this company's gonna go belly up, it's all over, I literally put my fingers to my ear and I said, I don't care. I'm gonna follow my gut instincts, look at the numbers, the financials, and I invested heavily when they were at 280 and then at 265, 28%. If you bought United Health on January the 1st, maybe January 2nd, I forget when the market opened on for the first trading day of the year. And then another really good one, Oshkosh Corporation. They practically make the vehicles that operate in an airport, the transportation units in a military installation, fire trucks, and then of course the EVs for the United States Postal Service. That one did pretty well. But Kratos Defense and Security Solutions, definitely the worst pick of them all. Negative 38%. Now here's the crazy thing. If we hop on over to the growth tab in analytics, by the way, I do have a referral link to Snowball Analytics in the pinned comment. You click and join, greatly appreciated. You can see that at one point, I guess up until the end of Q1, this portfolio was ripping. It was just crushing. $120,000. To that, the S&P 500, 100 grand would have transformed effectively 101,000. And that's because the portfolio strategy, it was a hedge against cash, case in point, the gold and silver allocations, but also being mindful of the situations that were occurring in Venezuela and Iran and the military spending ramping up. And the crazy thing is, I went back and forth on whether or not I wanted to include oil and gas. In hindsight, I probably should have, because that would have helped balance the sector rotation that occurred at the beginning of Q2. Going into April, man, the military stocks, they sold off beyond belief. Whereas on the other hand, the oil stocks, they went to the moon. Obviously, they're not the memory RAM SSD stocks, but hey, there's more than one way to win in the stock market. You don't just necessarily have to invest into what's being hyped up right now.
Stocks that compound and dividends, please. Welcome to investing with a side of cheese, where balance sheets matter and cash flows get fatter. But hey, I'm not a financial advisor.
So I do want to repeat myself and say, if I bought the following 12 stocks and did nothing, then I would be underperforming the stock market. However, that's not what I actually did, because we do have a public portfolio series titled Dividend Compounders with Cheese. So what did I actually do? So out of the 12 positions, the ones that I actually did invest in and sell out of include United Health, Unfortunately, I sold them at about $3.65 a share, and I had to because I moved back to the US and I needed to buy a used minivan. Another one was Oshkosh Corporation, Lockheed Martin, so that's 3 out of the 12 so far. Huntington Ingalls. At one point, I was up almost 200% on Huntington Ingalls. And then my beloved Amazon. So out of the 12, 5 were at one point in my portfolio. But the crazy thing about investing is you don't have to just sit back, chill, and do nothing. Because what I actually did, I sold out of all 5 of those at their tops, at their peaks, by monitoring the RSI and the technical analysis indicators. And I knew that the market was being irrational by pumping the military stocks beyond belief. I was like, well, thank you for your service. I'm seizing my profits and I'm walking away. Because had I done nothing, I would have watched my military stocks go all the way to the mountaintop just to drop back down to a valley. And that's why personally, I don't subscribe to the idea of doing nothing once I invest into a business operation, just like in the real world. If you invest into an operation and things are going haywire or things are going south, you can absolutely jump ship and walk away with your profits. You don't have to sink with the ship. It's not the Titanic. And my sincere apologies to those of you that follow the channel closely, because this is almost a repeat of prior episodes. But on February 2025, I bought 10 shares of Huntington Ingalls at approximately $169, and then I sold out of them just shy of $400 a share. So 133% profit. The P&L. So that's Huntington Ingalls, and we could do another one, Lockheed Martin, ticker symbol LMT. I bought 12 shares of it. Really expensive. I wish I could have bought more, but at $417 a share, I mean, right, my wallet can't afford 20 or 30 shares. And then I capitalized on my gains at $604 a share, 44% profit, rather than watching my gains go back into the red. And then we'll just do one more, United Health, because this is a company that I closely followed, and I made like 10 separate videos because I had such high conviction for. I put my money where my mouth was, and at one point, 1/3 of my Roth IRA was in United Health. Let's just pull it up right here. As you can see, when the health insurance stocks went on a sell-off beyond belief in the summer of 2025, I was dollar cost averaging every single week because I knew that it was absolutely irrational. So once it was all said and done, I walked away 31% in the green with United Health, $3,100. And that's why when you take a look at the actual reality and performance of my portfolio, the all-time P&L is 108%. As you can see, realized P&L, $35,600 in gains of me selling, capitalizing on the green, but also just shy of $2,000 in dividends received. If you break that down on an annualized basis, roughly 31% year over year. I get it that IRR is not synonymous with CAGR, but for simplicity's sakes. Here's the Oxford definition from Snowball. The IRR measures annual growth rate, which demonstrates the potential return in investment a portfolio may produce. A 10% internal rate of return shows that an investment should yield 10% return annually. So simplicity's sakes, 31% CAGR. And I'm not the kind of guy to just sit on the sidelines with my cash. I sold out of them because I believed they were overvalued at the time, mainly the military stocks. And I rotated that because I like having my cash work for me rather than just sitting on the sidelines, waiting to time the market, whether that takes a year or 10 years. No, I would rather deploy that capital so it can go to work for me right away. So overvalued, sold, seized the profits, and I rotated it into positions that I genuinely believed to be undervalued. So that would include the medical device landscape and software / big tech. So if I go to the holdings tab, this is the most up-to-date holdings in the public portfolio since last time we uploaded a video. And I feel really embarrassed because there has been a handful of transactions. Case in point, there used to be Republic Services and Waste Connections in here, but I sold out of them for a profit, which the Patreon community is tracking. It's just that it's easier for me to write up a blog while I'm changing a diaper than it is for me to film and edit edit and upload a video. So the updates in real time, it happens on Patreon, whereas with the video format, it's after the fact, and that happens like a couple weeks ago. But anyways, another new position in which I did not sell out of that's added is McDonald's. So I have 7 positions. I think they're all in the green except for the trade desk. Again, you can see I am not perfect. If I ever come across as arrogant, as a know-it-all, oh, I have a 100% success rate, I'm full of it. And you need to bring me back down to earth because I want to be more humble and more genuine. To be honest, I think my success rate is probably closer to like a 71, maybe a 75%. I think 25 to 29% of the time, I'm completely wrong. And I have sold stocks and businesses at a loss. Mostly the food CPG players like General Mills, Conagra. Yes, I did sell out of them for a loss. And then this eyesore right here, the trade desk, which I still really do believe in, they're just really beat up right now to the point where I don't even want to sell out of them. Because if I sell out of them, I'm walking away 54% in the red. So at this point, I'm just going to wait and see. So I'm going to keep that there so you guys realize that I am not perfect. I get it wrong, okay? So why am I invested in McDonald's? I mean, if you can't tell by the channel name, huge fan of that burger franchise. In fact, I made a video breaking down all of the various burger stocks, including Shake Shack, Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's. It's a fun one. Go give it a watch if you haven't already. But for me, McDonald's, I think, is best in class. Not necessarily in terms of the taste or quality of the burgers, but the business operation itself. Because it's a real estate conglomerate that just so happens to sell a quarter pounder with cheese. So when you think about that very expensive real estate in Paris, in London, in Tokyo, who owns that land and rents it out to the franchisee? McDonald's. And believe it or not, McDonald's, they're not doing all of the heavy lifting of running the show and the operations. That's the franchisees. They do everything, including the hiring, the firing, and making sure all the burgers are made perfectly. And then they cut a check to McDonald's Corporation. So for me, McDonald's, it's one of the few buy and hold forever. I know, when I say that, I don't say it lightly because I think there's only 100, potentially 120 buy and hold forever publicly traded entities because most companies are high quality today, but they'll be gone tomorrow. And when I say gone, I don't mean belly up, but their hype and momentum will be gone. I'm not trying to insinuate this, but the highly cyclical memory stocks like Micron, SanDisk, and SK Hynix, they have all the starlight, limelight. Everyone wants to be a part of it right now. But who knows? When that rotation happens, semiconductor chips historically have been cyclical. And when it happens, man, that sell-off is going to be massive. And so for me, I think cyclical stocks cannot necessarily be a buy and hold forever because you want to buy when they're at the low cycle and then sell when they're at their peak, the frenzy, when everyone is just pumping so much money, their trading multiple just makes no more sense. And when you assess and analyze their P&L, the income statement, you'll see it. There's ebbs and flows. The cyclicality and the seasonality just baked in. Some years, it'll be like a booming rocket ship. And in other years, it'll sink deep into the red. It'll decline double-digit numbers like negative 20%, negative 50%. So when I think about buy and hold forever, I think about business operations that's a smooth and steady sailing ship where it's just slowly and up into the right. Yes, there may be some speed bumps along the way, but over the grand scheme of things, it's consistently printing cash, regardless of the year, regardless of the season, regardless of who's the president or what kind of t-shirts, like the Seattle shirt that I'm wearing right now, whatever is trending. So when I think about Microsoft, when I think about McDonald's, when I think about Realty Income Corporation, when I think about Walmart, Amazon, I'm making this too hard on myself. I could just refer to my own positions and holdings. When I think about S&P Global, they have 50 plus years of raising their dividend payout. SAP, which is a tier 2 enterprise software that helps run almost every enterprise around the world. And believe it or not, Clorox is one of their biggest new contracts. They just decided to digitalize their entire ERP and software system to now being SAPs. But also Procter & Gamble, and of course my beloved Abbott. In the last cheese portfolio video, I talked about why I went gung-ho into Abbott, and to see that conviction and investing thesis play out, dude, I'm a happy camper. I mean, they had the greatest single trading day in their stock market history, or at least until like 1971 or something like that. I remember seeing that headline and I was like, yeah, dude, sign me up. I don't know what's behind those closed doors, but I will drink that Kool-Aid. I'm a pretty happy dude. Like, I saw them being unjustifiably being sold off, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go in big, and big I did. $4,000 worth. And a small little disclaimer that I want to make about the trade desk is, if you guys remember the deep dive videos that I made about them, I said they're not a buy and hold forever because advertising budgets are cyclical. Sometimes the company has a lot of marketing campaigns and money to throw around, and sometimes it dries up. So inherently, their business model, I didn't believe to be a buy and hold forever, but rather, if I did buy into them, I said it was going to be a swing trade, but one thing led to another, and now I've been holding them for 7 months. So I learned my lesson there. If something is considered a swing trade, or if I'm on the fence, or if I don't have that like 90% conviction like I did with Abbott or United Health or Amazon, Huntington Ingalls, then I'm not going to invest in them. With the trade desk, you guys remember my tone in the video. I was like, you know what? I'm like icky, like 25% of me is like, let's do it. 40% is hesitating, and the other remaining percent is like, run away. I really shouldn't have done it. But I think I just got too greedy, and I just wanted to chase the gains because I just saw that on paper, the trade desk overwhelmingly undervalued, and I kept thinking like, well, I'm just gonna put my money here. It was pretty much a gamble, and in hindsight, that was a really bad mistake because it wasn't reasoning and rationale, decision making that made me pull the trigger, but emotions. I was being greedy, and that's why if I'm on the fence, I'm gonna walk away. And I've been doing that with a lot of stocks in the past 6 months. So it's kind of a good thing that the trade desk is here, because it always brings me back down to earth to remind myself, like, don't go near this meme stock. Don't go near this hype stock. Remember your lessons. And that's the amazing thing about life, right? If you make a mistake, if you act a fool of yourself, or you act in a way that is not like yourself, and you hurt feelings, or you ultimately hurt yourself, you can learn and change in the future, unless you're crazy. Because I think crazy people tend to just repeat the same actions and behaviors and hope that things and the outcomes and the consequences and results will change magically, which that doesn't happen that way, right? But changing gears a bit, if we take a look at the portfolio consolidated as a whole, let me just zoom out right here, and we compare it to the S&P 500, I guess, for the past 1 year. This portfolio's performance, I mean, it's a bull market, right? Anybody can look like a genius in a bull market. 66% the P&L, and I'm hovering over it so you guys can see what has been happening. Like, I'm very hands-on. I've been moving in and out of positions. The blue is my portfolio. The orange is the S&P 500, so in the exact same timeline, with the exact same amount of money invested or not invested, S&P 500 is 47%, so this is like your SPY or VU. The dividend compounders with cheese is 66%, but if we only take into account the past 6 months, so we do year to date, 21.2% for the dividend compounders with cheese, and then the S&P 500 obviously 14%. And that's why, like, if you have access to a 401k, a TSP, or work-sponsored brokerage account, S&P 500, whatever that ETF or mutual fund is, that chill, you get to go. You don't need to mess around with all this nonsense that I'm doing. Individual stock picking takes a lot of time, effort, dedication, and energy just to beat the S&P 500 by a little bit. But that little bit is so rewarding that I don't mind doing it. I genuinely love what I do. But for most people, I mean, to be honest, right, you're better off not doing anything at all. just putting it into Vu SPY and you can get 14%. Why be greedy and try to aim for that 21%, right? So I'm trying to steer you guys away from individual stock picking and just stick to the ETFs. And so I think the natural question, I think it's time for me to answer, why am I so hands-on? Why am I doing all of this, right? Usually, up until, I want to say the end of 2024, I was more hands-off. I would buy into something and do nothing. And so consequently, the output would be like what you saw, my stock picks for 2026. Sometimes it would be at 120 grand, at 100 grand invested, and other times it would drop down to $97,000, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a part of the market. There's highs and there's lows. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. But I think the bigger reasoning and the logic is this, because of the current party in power, the administration, right? And the geopolitical uncertainty and our trading wars and partnerships being severed, tariffs, and of course, inflation. Here's how I would sum it up. The stock market, Wall Street and investors, they're optimistic while at the same time scared. And that's why you'll see these very aggressive and volatile swings seemingly every 2 to 3 weeks. Obviously, I could be wrong, but what I have been observing is I'm seeing a pattern of highs and lows in a sideways trading market for certain names. There's other stocks that are unaffected and they're just going up and to the right regardless of what's happening. But there are certain sectors and industries where it's almost predictable. There's inherent highs, and then when it reaches it, that line of resistance, it just starts selling off until they reach their line of support once again. I've been following that game, buying the lows and then selling the highs. It's not what I want to do, but it's been working out. And for the time being, it's what I'm going to do. Now, obviously, when a new presidential candidate takes over and the markets stabilize, because not everything's going to sell off because one single tweet or a truth social post and things are normal again, I'll probably be less hands-on. But for the time being, that's the market environment that we're working with. That's the atmosphere. And I think, here's another life lesson. The ability to adapt to change, I think that's one of the highest markers of intelligence. And to be fully transparent with you, I'm a man that lacks in many different ways. I have a lot of flaws. I get emotional sometimes, and it sucks. But in one area that I thrive and I succeed in is the ability to understand when dynamics change and not playing favoritism or one side, but being fluid enough and almost taking advantage of the situation so that I can win, regardless of who's theoretically winning. And in my journal, I wrote this down, so I want to say it out loud verbatim. Now, this might not be kosher, but I don't practice political investing. I practice profit-driven investing. Every administration in every economic environment creates opportunities. My goal as an amateur investor is not to cheer for one side or the other. Instead, it's to understand how those policies affect businesses and position my portfolio accordingly. And the really interesting part about all of it is it's publicly available knowledge. You and I, we already know what each side of the political spectrum, what they prioritize and what they're going to increase the budgets for, while at the same time decreasing funding for X, Y, Z. And maybe it's the wrong thing and maybe I'm a jerk, but I've been making the most of the conditions and the opportunities that are presented to me. So for the time being, I'm going to be investing in very high quality compounders as evidenced by the holdings for the short term. I'll be selling out of them after, I don't know, like a 10-15% profit, and then rinse and repeat as they hit those natural sideways patterns that I've been observing. And for the worst case, when we talk about Abbott, Microsoft, or even SAP, I mean, holding on for the long run, not terrible. So I'll share my homework with you. So talking about buying and selling and rinse and repeat, like I'm shampooing my tiny little, what is this, like an inch of hair? Believe it or not, like 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, I buzzed it down to a 0 and a 1, and now we already have all this going on. I definitely need a haircut. One example of that, my most favorite player in the waste management space is Waste Connections. My number 2 would be Republic Services, and then number 3, it's not like he's an F tier or C tier. He would be a B plus, would be Waste Management. As you can see, with Waste Connections, I've been buying and selling, rinse and repeat again and again. And to be quite frank, I'm going to buy Waste Connections once they drop back down to my entry price point. And so let's bridge the gap and address why did my top picks for 2026 underperform, even though they crushed it for the first 4 months. To be honest with you, no excuses. At the time in January, when I did my research and I uploaded this video, I thought the gold and silver markets were gonna hold steady until the beginning of 2027. Obviously, I was wrong. Gold and silver, they're really deep into the red. Same with the military stocks. At the end of March, going into April, they've been selling off beyond belief. However, at the end of the day, that video itself, it was just made for fun. And that's why for my own personal portfolio that I share publicly with you guys, I didn't invest in gold. I didn't invest in silver, Kratos, or some of the other ones that are deep in the red. While at the same time, I feel like this is not fair looking at Huntington Ingalls negative 20% saying, oh, that was a terrible stock pick. Because if you saw my own personal play, I walked away 133% in the green. And so I guess when it comes to like videos like that, one thing that I've learned like a handful of years ago is to extrapolate the good from the bad. Obviously, not all 12 were going to be the best, and that's why I diversified the $100,000 across 12 different positions rather than just saying Amazon and United Health. In hindsight, that portfolio would have been crushing it. And in case you weren't paying attention, the good for me was Amazon, Huntington Ingalls, Lockheed Martin, Oshkosh Corporation, and United Health. I sold all of them at their peaks except for United Health, and that's because I needed the $10,000 right away to buy something. And that's the cool thing about investing. When you invest in stocks, when you sell and you get that cash back into your bank account, you can use that tangible purchases like us, like we needed a car. Like that's amazing. That's reason number 75 as to why I love investing in stocks so much. Now, having said that, even if the top 2026 stock picks, it was just for fun, between you and me, I'm gonna go on record by saying it's the last time I'm gonna do a video or content like that, like the top picks for whatever, because if you manipulate or cherry pick the timeline, I'm either brilliant or stupid. Like in reality, what happened, it was pretty good. But by cherry picking the timeline and letting it play out and being a hands-off investor, then obviously the top picks, trash. But jokes aside, a couple days ago, I came across this article from the Korea Times, and that's a bigger reason as to why I'm never gonna make a video like that again. Rather, I'm just gonna share with you my experiences, stuff that I'm investing in, but never ever like recommendations or top picks. And that's because I don't want someone to think that all 12 of those stocks back in January, it was biblical truth and that they were all gonna print cash and then to get very upset with me. Because in that article, this dude, he's a stock picking YouTuber that I watched one of his videos, and he word by word says, buy now, buy now. And obviously for certain individuals that were tuning into his content, they didn't extrapolate the good from the bad by using their own analysis and just decided to do whatever he said. And of course, they got very upset when things didn't pan out the way that he promised. And so he ended up getting stabbed, I think 14 different times all around the face and his chest. And that made me think, I'm no longer a bachelor that's just looking out for myself and just on my own. I've got a family, I've got a baby, and if someone were to be very upset with me, especially in this political climate, that's why I do not get road rage here in the US. You never know when someone is just walking around haywire or one of their screws are loose, or if they have a rifle or a gun in their car, right? It's not worth to lose your life over. And so the point being, I don't want someone to get so upset with me that they hurt me. Because if they hurt me, I would feel an immense amount of guilt that my baby daughter would have to grow up without a dad. And so now that I'm thinking about stuff like that, I just don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. Like, I only make this content just for fun and educational purposes, right? Entertainment. I'm never ever gonna outright say, do this, I'm always right. This is gonna go 120% into the... I'm not one of those guys. There's plenty of them on YouTube. And yes, they get like hundreds of thousands of views because they talk just like that. They invoke that sense of urgency, psychological, emotional convincing so that other people invest into their positions and then they can sell. I get why they do it and I understand the name of the game. I just can't get to that level. I just don't want to do that because I'm always thinking about it from an angle of how can I help people so that they can make better decisions and be better investors. And I'm just sharing my journey so they can learn the good and the bad, right? I feel like it's a different angle and an approach versus someone that's trying to just get rich by getting people to just follow suit into what they're doing. Different priorities. All that to say, I hope you guys understand, I am not a financial advisor. Dude, I'm just a stay-at-home dad that just does this full time and makes enough money to pay the bills, right? And look at this. You think I'm a professional? I'm not a professional guy. I'm just doing this for fun. Just think of me as like your friend and just sharing what I'm learning along the way, okay? So please forgive me if I ever came across as arrogant or conceited. As you can see by, well, it's not showing up here. I don't always get it right. Now, I don't want to repeat myself, and I want to show you something interesting. Remember we talked about it on the Compounder's Corner? So here in the United States, there's currently a foodborne illness that's spreading like wildfire, and apparently once you catch it, you're gonna have diarrhea and vomiting for up to 30 days. Now, friends and family, right before I left Japan, I got food poisoning from sushi, and it lasted about 4.5 to 5 days. I can't imagine 30 days. But anyways, it's currently happening here in the US. Thousands of people. Now we have a confirmed link as to one of the sources of what's causing it, Taco Bell, specifically the lettuce that's provided by Taylor Farms. And the crazy thing is, from what I listened to on a podcast, one of the scientists went on record by saying once you cook the greens or the vegetables to at least 175 degrees Fahrenheit, good enough to kill it. To be safe, get it up to 195. So it's affecting fresh veggies. So like the shredded lettuce, cabbage, cilantro, cucumbers, no bueno. Remember, I tried to give you guys a heads up a week ago. So if you're into salads, Chipotle, and stuff like that, especially Taco Bell, parent company Yum Brands, I'm bearish on right now because this outbreak is pretty severe. So if you take away anything from this video, number one, I'm a nut job, I'm a wacko, I'm stupid. But number two, please stay safe. Right now might be the best time to stick to a carnivore diet and just avoid the greens until we can get over this. Because by eating a salad or bagged lettuce or spinach or kale, all of that is fair game to this foodborne illness. Not good. So stay safe. I love you guys. Good luck in the stock market, and I genuinely hope you guys crush it. Really, I do. And I'll talk to you next time and very soon. As for me, I'm gonna go analyze IBM, International Business Machines. So that's a future upload that you guys can anticipate, and subscribe if you haven't. I never say that, subscribe, but yeah, talk to you guys really soon. See ya.